I came here. Is this anyone's first time to MEC? Okay, wow, new people. So this is, how many have been here to MEC for more than 5 years ago? Even though I know it wasn't, okay. 10 years ago. All right. Boston MEC. All right. Okay. There are some things that happened that we're not going to talk about in Boston, but my name is Eric Ashby. I've been at Microsoft for a couple years now, and I've been working on Exchange for a few of those years. Franklin, I could use the,
hey
Franklin,
guys.
and he's going to be working with me. He also has been, I'll let you introduce yourself and tell him about you.
Yeah.
Right now.
So, my name is Franklin Williams. I'm a program manager with the Office Group. I do a lot of authentication and identity stuff. So we're going to be here today to talk to you about what's new in Outlook 2013, particularly as it relates to security and authentication.
So, and I've been, like I said, I've been in actually 97 is when I started Microsoft, worked on Exchange almost the whole time. A few years ago, I started this new product called BPOS, which was the predecessor to Office 365, then was there when Office 365 came out and upgraded to that system. And about a year ago, I decided to move over to Outlook just for fun, to try it out. I've been on the servers for so long. And so I've been in Outlook for the past year with that. And so that's why I'm here going to talk about kind of what's new in Outlook 2013. But for several years, I've been out of the MEC circle, just because I was on Office 365 or whatever, and so I was happy to come back. And one of the things, you guys got that working? Okay. One of the things the thing that's so cool about coming to these, these events is you get the swags. And I have 6 kids, and it was funny when I started at Microsoft. I didn't have 6 kids, but I have 6 kids now. I used to actually show photos of my kids in the sessions, and I got great scores. I really did. I would show them my photo of my kids, baby little photos, and everyone would go, "Oh, that's so cute! Such a good speaker. Let's give them, high scores." Now my kids are all teenagers. There's no way I'm going to show you any pictures of them. Okay, it just doesn't have the same impact. But anyway, so I get the swags. I got shirt. I'm going to give this to all the kids. So we've got the server dude. There's one called Nice Rack, and I wouldn't get that one. And of course you got there was mugs that were there. I got all sorts of weird stuff. Cliff bars from the speaker room. You guys don't get those. We get those, and so I take those home for whatever. There's some glasses stuff. I don't know which one of my kids are going to get that. But I essentially get them all this stuff. Oh, this is a cool one. There's a pig. You can get a pig that's out there. I don't know if you guys have seen that one. These are awesome. The glasses. I got my littlest, my 8-year-old. She's going to get that one, and I always get that one. This is the problem one, of course. That one's going to be the one where all the kids are going to. I'm like, no, that one's mine. Actually, my wife will probably take that. She's probably going to get that one. But anyways, it's kind of fun to see all the weird. I have no idea. Someone was actually giving out a Chinese finger toy, and I'm not too sure what that was the point. But RPRY, they actually have some good monitoring software if you want to go check that out. But anyways. I have no idea what that has to do with the session, but I'm just showing you why I like coming here to MEC. So actually, let's get on to talking a little bit about authentication. Format, just so you know how we're going to do this. I know it's crammed. I know we have a lot of people, but I think we can take sessions during the thing. There'll be obvious pause points because we'll pause, okay? And then when there's those pause points, you can ask questions. Raise your hand. Don't use the mic. We'll repeat it back so everyone can hear. So that it'll go like that. I don't want to just wait to the end and then have people standing up in line. It just doesn't really work for us. I really want this to kind of be an open session. Franklin and I have kind of that's the way we roll. So, anyways, we have 3 objectives. 3 takeaways. I debated showing this at the very beginning, especially if you see the takeaways, because then you'll be like, cool, I got it. And leave, but do stay around for the rest of the session. But this is really what you want to know. We are going to talk about kind of like how does authentication work with the cloud. This session is going to cover mostly about the cloud and Office 365. As you've seen, there's a lot of our development and a lot of our innovation is first on Office 365, and so a lot of this session is going to talk about that. We're going to talk about how multi-factor auth. This is extremely important. As we move to the cloud, companies need to be secure. and they need to be able to do more than just a user ID and a password, and they need to have that. And so we're going to be talking about that. And then we're also going to be announcing some new versions. And basically the takeaway that we want you to get is we want you to know that Outlook will work with SSO, true SSO, single sign-on, not the, we'll use the same user ID and password. We will be supporting SSO. We want you to take away that Office 365 is supporting multi-factor auth, and more importantly, and this is the big announcement that's coming out, Outlook will be supporting multi-factor auth before the end of the year. Thank you. Already clapping in the back. Thank you. Okay. All right. Well, I guess that's the session.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah. This is the whole point of this. We can actually explain the technical details if you guys would like, or we could go out for more barbecue. There's Stubbs, 5 blocks that way. Great barbecue. You'll remember it for a couple of days. Trust me on that one. So, all right. So we're going to split this up into 3 groups. I'm going to talk about Office 365 since I've been working there for a few years. Franklin's going to talk about the multi-factor auth, and he's going to talk about with Office 365 because multi-factor auth and the new work that we're doing is not about Outlook. It's really about changing the infrastructure around all of our applications. And this is important because if you want single sign-on, you want it across all applications. You don't want it to be like, I sign in here and then I have to sign in there. It really has to be an infrastructure thing, which is why we kind of had to go back, and he's going to talk about the infrastructure. And then, of course, this is about Outlook, so we're going to talk about Outlook and how it goes into that. So how many here use Office 365 today? Okay, great. About half of you. Okay. I'm going to just talk about Office 365. I'm going to give you the baby bear, the mama bear, and the papa bear versions of your identity solutions or your authentication solutions. So here, this is the baby bear example. So the baby bear is, I want to go with Office 365. So I log on, I sign up, I pay for it, and I get this. All my users will have a user identity. They'll be in the cloud. They can type in their username. They can type in their password, and they can get access to services. They can, if they want to use Outlook, it'll ask them for a user ID and password. If they want to use SharePoint, it'll ask them for the same user ID and password. But all they have to remember is one user ID and one password, and they can just get into things, but they'll do it multiple times. And that's what we have today. That's on the that's kind of the baby bear. So, Mama Bear, you have a bigger organization that already has Active Directory. And so maybe you've got 100 people, maybe 250 people. And so they have Active Directory, and they're like, okay, great, we already have a set of people. We don't want to have to re-input them all again. Well, we also, in Office 365, we have this concept called directory sync, which means I'll take all my identities, and I'll copy them up to the cloud. Now, they still get a new user ID and password in the cloud that they can use to authenticate with. And so in this case, I log into my machine on-premise. I have to type in my user ID and password to get into on-prem. Then when I want to log into Outlook, I'm going to have to type in the same user ID, but most likely a different password because I'm into the cloud. And so you've got these 2 passwords that you're always dealing with. And of course, in this environment, people are like, the passwords always get mixed up. And so, but this is, you don't have to really set anything up except for directory sync. And so that's kind of the Mama Bear solution that you have. Of course, Papa Bear is that you throw in federation on top of that. So in this environment, you now have directory sync that's going on. And so the directory sync is copying down all of your identities. And then you have federation, which means that when someone tries to log onto the system, Office 365 will redirect you back to your on-prem Active Directory and say, authenticate with your on-prem Active Directory. This is nice because then what you'll get is you'll get a single user ID and a single password. So someone will come in the morning, they log onto their desktop, user ID and password, they launch Outlook, they type in the same user ID and password, and it works, and they're happy because they don't have to remember multiple user IDs and passwords. And that's good. You still have the problem, though, of, okay, then they launch SharePoint. Oh, user ID and password again, and then Link, oh, user ID and password again, and user ID and password again. And so they have all of these user IDs and password. They have to kind of do it multiple times. But those are the 3 solutions that's today. Now, with the new authentication stack that's coming, and this is what we are developing in Outlook 2013 right now. We're talking about it. It will be released second half of this year. and in fact, the way that we're delivering this is that we'll deliver it through a new system which is called flighting. It allows us, and we talked about that earlier this morning, that we put features in the code, and then we start to turn them on for different segments or groups of people, and it goes out and out and out and out. It gets wider and wider until we know it's solid. So a lot of this functionality is like available. We'll demo it today, and we're in the process of kind of getting it out to the environments. But with what'll be new with this new authentication is that you will get true single sign-on. That's a pause for an applause. Thank you very much. Which means that any of these models here, you sign in as soon as you type in your user ID and password in any Office 365 application like Exchange or SharePoint. The next application that launches will say, hey, wait, I got it. I'm already authenticated. I don't have to ask you again. And so you get true interaction. This is very nice, especially if you're like doing attachments that actually are links into SharePoint. It's not like, oh, wait a second, I have to keep on typing it in again. And for Mama Bear and for Baby Bear and Mama Bear, it's single sign-on multi-factor auth, which we'll talk about in a second. But for the federated state, which you also get it, thank you. You also have we also have third-party solutions that are also available. And actually, one of them's out on the floor if you want to go talk to them. Centrify is here, and so you can go down and talk to them. But essentially, we've been also working with third-party providers out there, and this is important. You get into bank situations or this government or a lot of different organizations that they may have already identity management providers and authentication systems that is outside of Active Directory, and so we work with these customers. In fact, one of the things that we've done is we've kind of streamlined the process to get them certified to work with us, and so this changed in January of this year so that we can get them in, get them certified, especially with this new kind of the new model that we're working. And so this is very important if you happen to have one of these. But of course, the most important thing, which is what we're here to talk about, is the multi-factor auth, which goes across all of these, and that is the big thing because that was as you go to the cloud, the concern is we have to step up the security. When you're on-prem, you've got all sorts of security that you'll do, but as these clients, especially as you start getting all these other devices, I mean, I guarantee you everybody at this conference is walking around with a tablet, So now that you've got all these mobile devices that are around, then it's like, okay, great. How do we make sure that it's always secure? And so multi-factor auth is just getting more and more important. We've heard that. We've got a model by way we can release new features and functionality throughout the life cycle of the product, and we're about to do that. And so with that, Franklin's going to talk about some of the new features that this side's yours, right?
That's right.
Okay, so my side's the other side. So, all right.
Thank you, Eric. So I want to start today with just a very quick overview of what exactly is multi-factor authentication. Based on the applause in the back, it sounds like most of you guys, or at least some of you, know what it is today. But really what it is it is a way by which we can provide a higher affordance of security to both administrators and end users. It's a combination of something your password, for example, plus something you have. And that something you have can be a smart card, a cell phone, a number of different things, a fingerprint, a biometric scan, any number of different mechanisms to help prove that the person that's sitting in front of that tablet, that phone, that laptop is indeed who they claim they are. Now, how many of you guys today have two-factor authentication, multi-factor authentication enabled on any of your accounts, whether it's a Google or Microsoft account? Wonderful. Perfect. So what you're going to see here a little later and what we're going to be offering for Office 365 is very similar to that. It builds basically on top of that user model where it's a username and password, and it's a number of different factors from an application to a phone call to a text message, a number of different ways by which the person sitting in front of that keyboard can indeed prove who they are, but do it in a lightweight way.
So you have it's something that they know and something that they have.
That's right.
What about something that you are? Like, I'm handsome.
You are?
Yes, I am. But what about something that you are?
That's a great example. So we will also have the ability, and we will be able to expose this through third parties as well, to do things like use your fingerprint, use any sort of kind of device scan or anything else to truly kind of prove out that second factor.
Okay. Cool.
To prove out that something you are.
Something you are. That's my favorite one.
Yep. So let's talk a little bit about what our solution is and what we're offering. We are building our solution on top of Windows Azure multi-factor authentication. You guys may have heard of this. How many of you have heard of Phone Factor? Wonderful, perfect. So this is basically our integration of Phone Factor from Windows Azure hooked into Office 365. It's already performant, it's already robust, it's used by thousands of customers today, and it provides a great experience that gives the administrator the security that they need, but also the end user the flexibility that they need to get into their system. I wanted to put a slide in here to announce, if you will, or
how
perhaps,
many of you prior to this session today knew that Office 365 supported multi-factor auth? Okay, okay, so then this is a re-announcement that we support multi-factor auth. Because we came out, I think, in February? Yeah, in February. Yeah. Okay, but pretend that it's brand new and exciting that you didn't know, because we're re-announcing it today, that this is new.
That's right. New, and we're really excited because it's going to be included for no cost at all with Office 365 SKUs. It's basically going to extend what's already available, what you're already familiar with for your tenant administrators, and it's going to build on top of the Windows Azure multi-factor authentication solutions that are already there. So it'll be a familiar experience and one that puts the end user and the administrator fully in control of this secure experience. We will support this using really a number of different form factors. If a customer chooses to use a mobile app, we have an option for them. If they prefer to get a text message, we have an option for them. If they prefer to get a phone call and press a button, we have an option for them. And the neat thing about it is that we put that control into the customer's hands. And so what we'll see here in a minute in a demo is that the end user, the customer, gets to pick how they want to interact with the multi-factor authentication system. So you're not forcing a solution on their customer. You're providing an array of different solutions that let the customer choose whatever they're most comfortable with. So maybe they want to get text messages because they're because they use SMS all the time. They can do that. Maybe they don't even have a messaging plan and needs to get a phone call. They can select that when they come through to enroll in multi-factor auth. Maybe they want to use an app because all they have is data. They'll have that opportunity as well. You, the administrator, won't have to know about it. It's totally up to the end user, totally up to the customer. You'll just know that your stuff is secure and protected through multi-factor authentication.
So this screen that you're showing here, is this what the administrator sees when he sets it up, or is this what the end user sees as they're logging in for the first time?
This is what the end user is going to see when they log in from the first time. And when we show the demo here in a moment, I will show Susie walking through a very similar screen to get enrolled and get set up with multi-factor authentication.
So it's really the user that controls that then?
That's exactly right.
Okay, great.
Yep. Similarly, there are scenarios out there that simply don't support multi-factor authentication today. Great example of that is the built-in mail client on the iPhone. That communicates using EAS, using a simple username and password, and so there's no place really to even put that second factor. There's no way to enter that PIN, enter that text message, enter that smart card. It's just a username and password. Now, you probably still want those to work, right? Otherwise, you're going to get a bunch of angry phone calls. Why did you break my iPhone? Yet on the flip side, you still need some level of security to know that your assets are actually protected in the right way. App passwords are how we provide that affordance. Now, what an app password is it's best thought of as just a randomly generated 16-character password that a person that enrolls in multi-factor authentication can take and can then put into their iPhone client or even legacy Office applications. And they can use that to easily sign in, easily get their documents, but still give you the security and the knowledge to know that your assets are still secure in the cloud.
This is going to be a pause. Oh. that wasn't an applause pause, but we'll take that. That was a question pause. We're just pausing for a question to sink in.
So with app passwords, aren't you kind of bypassing multi-factor authentication because you're storing the password principal of them? You're giving it a 16-character password, which is pretty hard to remember. So the advice or the recommendation is to store it and save the password. Does that meet the purpose of the multi-factor authentication right now?
Let me just repeat that because I'm not sure everyone could hear that. But the question is, since we're doing an app password, does that really bypass the two-factor auth that that doesn't actually bypass the two-factor auth because now they're just using the app password.
Right.
So yeah.
And I think that's a great question. What you're seeing is kind of a balance here between security and usability a bit. You have these older clients, you still want them to work, and so how can you get those to work with the highest level of security? There's things that the app passwords afford you that maybe aren't available elsewhere. They're harder to guess because they're randomly generated. They're a lot longer than a normal password would be. They also can be revoked. And so you can come in and you can say, ooh, I lost this tablet, for instance. Revoke all the app passwords that are associated with it. Yep. And so that gives you a little bit of affordance in the scenario that you described there, where I remembered my password because it's 16 characters of gibberish. But then I lose my laptop at the airport, or worse, it gets stolen.
And one of the key things to remember, the multi-factor auth is really a client-server play. You have to have both of them line up. And so the important thing is that, well, in fact, what we're showing here is we first had to get the server part taken care of, and that's really what Frank was talking about. We had to get the server part, and taking care of the server, we had to think about backwards compatibility. But really, to secure your system, you then need to couple that with the secure clients, which is really kind of the second half of the talk, is that we're going to talk about how the Microsoft clients are now taking advantage of that. And so that really the best environment is when you're using Outlook 2013, which supports the two-factor auth with the two-factor auth that's supporting Office 365. That's really going to be your most secure, your secure situation. And then as we roll the Outlook clients onto these other places, like onto iPhone and iPad and whatever, then you can know that, say this is our preferred client because it provides us that two-factor auth that's already supported by the service. So that is a really good question, and that's, we had to do this because we have to be backwards compatible, but you're absolutely right. You want to couple it, a client and the server together. So we'll take one more question and then we'll go on.
Great question. So there is no explicit binding. There's no security guarantee. But what we provide is an affordance for an end user to manage that. So when you create an app password, you'll be able to give it a label. You'll be able to say, Outlook on my work tablet. And you copy that, you paste it into Outlook, and then that password is pretty much hidden forever. You can generate a new one, but you can't access that one again. And so when you go back later and lose that, if the customer has practiced kind of good hygiene, they'll be able to say, oh, right, I remember that one was with that tablet, delete it. Don't let it work anymore.
All right.
You can absolutely, because there's no binding. There's nothing that tells us on the client which client is calling or how to use it.
Okay, let's move on to the demo.
Yeah, absolutely. So Eric mentioned how he has teenagers and doesn't want to show their pictures. I, on the other hand, am shameless, and so I will indulge a little bit. So I want to walk you guys through really quick what it means to set up multi-factor authentication and what it means to enroll people in your company. So I'm going to go ahead and sign into my tenant, and this is production today. You guys can do this with no problem at all. I'm going to go ahead and sign in, theoretically. I'm going to go ahead and sign in and walk you through what it would take to enroll somebody in your organization. So what you're looking at here is Windows Azure Active Directory. You're looking at the management page, and you're looking at the people that are currently members of my tenant. So Susie is often on the road, and I need a better assurance that the person at the end of the wire is exactly who they say they are. So I'm going to opt Susie in to multi-factor authentication. I enable it, and now she's ready to go. Now you may be asking the question, what happened to Susie at this point in time? If she's using Outlook, if she's using Link, if she's browsing to the web, what happened? Do her devices still work? And they absolutely do. There's a difference that we have between enabling and enforcing. Enabling simply means the next opportunity that we get to enroll you, to bring you into the system, to find out what kind of security factors you want to use, whether it's a text message or a call or any number of these, we're going to do it and take that opportunity to do it. However, until you've taken that step, you're still going to be able to use your devices. You're still going to be able to use Outlook. You're still going to be able to use Link. You're still going to be able to use any of the rich client devices that you have now. It's only until Susie comes back through, signs in, picks the authentication factor that she wants, where she will actually start enabling and enforcing and be truly enrolled in multi-factor authentication. So let's take a look as to exactly what that looks like. So here I am on a different machine. I'm Susie. I'm on the road. I decide I'm going to sign in to get some work done. And at this point, we're gonna ask her a couple of questions. We're gonna say, congratulations, we've required that you need additional security around this. Let me please get it set up right now. And here we're gonna walk you through that screen that we saw previously, where she comes in and she starts basically picking how she wants to be enrolled in multi-factor authentication. How does she want to determine, how she gets additional security factors? And so with my tenant here, I have two options set up. I have you can text me or you can call me. In this case, Susie's going to pick that she wants to call me, and she's going to be able to pick the phone number that she gets. She can also have an office phone, a mobile app, any number of these. She'll hit next, and it's going to ask to verify. And here what it's doing is just basically sending a text message over to the phone to make sure that it can reach you. And so there you can see the text message coming in, again, powered by Phone Factor. We verify that. It knows that we can reach me.
They can't see that. All they see is your phone. You have to switch back.
It knows that it can reach me. And now at this point, it starts asking for an app password. It says, hey, do you use Outlook? Yes. Do you use Link? Do you use any of these rich clients? Great. Then we're going to need you to generate an app password. And so you'll click this button. You'll get an app password, and you'll copy that into the rich clients that you use today. You'll copy that into your EAS clients, you'll copy it into your iPhone, you'll copy it into your Android device, and you'll even copy it into Outlook.
And that's for a client that doesn't support the multi-factor auth, because you'll show the new Outlook later on.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
Yep. So Susie comes along, she signs back in, and she's asked every time now that she signs in to enter a code. And so here, again, I got a new text message this time with the code. We enter that in. We verify it. And she signed right into the portal. She can then come and access her mail, her calendar, her documents, and everybody, and the administrator knows that it's really her at the other end of the wire. So questions about that before we move on?
Yes.
Is there any way to automatically enroll your user via from Active Directory attributes like mobile?
So the question is, can we automatically enroll, especially if we have a lot of large list of people? Yeah. So if we want to do students or somebody like that. Franklin?
I believe there are both PowerShell mechanisms and a series of others. I'm not 100% sure, though. I do believe it's documented online.
Yeah, it would make sense that they're PowerShell. I don't know about an Active Directory Active Directory bit to flip. Yes, question?
If I log into the website you showed, activedirectory.windowsazure.com, it sounds like it's pending retirement.
That's a bug. If it is, so that's... It will be, so there is a map where we are merging pieces of this with the admin portal that exists today on Office 365. And so some of what I showed here will actually be moving into O365. However, Azure Active Directory is the cloud solution for our cloud identities, both on-prem and our federation. And so that is not going anywhere.
Yeah, and that was a specific question about that when he logs in, he sees a dialog that says it's going away. So. It said it right here.
It did,
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. What would have Susie had seen had she logged into Outlook prior to doing this?
Great question. So Outlook today, basically once you enroll, once it's totally enforced on your account, if she did not copy an app password into Outlook, Outlook would stop syncing and say, I need a new password. And so we're looking at things around funneling better error messages back through, but today, on an EAS client where we don't have any control at all, it'll just basically say, sorry, sync failed, please enter the right password.
Yeah, some good questions. Shall we go in?
Absolutely.
How long does the app password last?
The app password, it lasts as long as your password, actually, I think it lasts forever. I don't believe so.
Yeah, so the question is the app password forced to change? And
That's correct.
Not sure about that. So
not 100% sure. I believe the answer is that it does. It's outside of the password policy.
And we should go and confirm that because I think that's an important.
It absolutely is.
Yeah, that's an important one.
Yep.
So we should go confirm that and just don't know. So
absolutely is.
Okay.
So we talked a little bit about about the legacy experiences and how even in Outlook 2007, 2010, you'd be forced to enter this app password, a somewhat admittedly awkward gesture, right?
Yeah.
And certainly less secure than the multi-factor authentication, than a true multi-factor authentication experience. And so we looked at our clients and we said, what can we do to solve this? And we're in the second half of this year, we're going to launch a new solution with all of Office, not just Outlook, but all of Office 2013 that truly enables multi-factor solutions into Office. Now, it actually goes even a little further than this. We basically want to get Office to the point where if you can authenticate in a web browser, you can authenticate within Office. And that's neat not just from a multi-factor situation, but it's also neat from the perspective of being able to support, like we talked about earlier, third-party identity providers, things like Shibboleth, things that Outlook and the rest of Office doesn't necessarily support very well today. We will be able to support those very, very well going forward because, again, if you can authenticate in a web browser, we want you to be able to just authenticate in Office. There are a number of different pieces that we're going to support right out of the box, things that we know large enterprises need, things that we know that you guys in this room need, things like using SAML, things like using CAT cards and PIV cards, things that provide this higher level of security that we know the industry needs. And so we'll go out of the box with those. We'll go out of the box in the second half of 2014 with the Works with I365 program that Eric talked about earlier, and we will be able to provide a turnkey solution for Office 2013 and the rest of the Office clients. Now, you may be wondering just a little bit about how we're going to do this. And really, if we dig into the guts just briefly, what we'll find is that we're using a lot of code from our partners in Active Directory, a piece of code, you can find it on GitHub today, called the Active Directory Authentication Library. And this code basically implements a very simple protocol that we'll walk through here in a minute. This does a web-driven OAuth protocol against both AAD and ADFS 3.0. Those endpoints can then federate with additional providers and can do things like SAML, they can do things like WSFed. And then those endpoints will translate that data back into standardized tokens that we understand, and then we'll take those and we'll send those to the server. Now, you may have wondered, Franklin, why did you throw out ADFS 3.0 as well? And the reason that we included that was very specific. And that's because while the thing that we're going to release at the end of 2014 is for cloud only, and we've been talking a bunch about the cloud today, we realize that there are certain environments that need this level of assurance on-prem as well. And so it is part of our roadmap in 2015 to be able to land a solution that not just works for the cloud, but leveraging ADFS 3.0 also provides this level of assurance on-premise as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
So just a quick kind of sidebar, but we did want to be explicit about that it is in the roadmap, but not yet, won't be released with the initial solution here in 2014. If you guys are interested, I just want to spend just a couple of moments diving into how the traffic works very, very briefly. So we start by making a request up to the service. The service comes back and says, I speak this new protocol. I speak OAuth. We go and we say, give me tokens. Let me authenticate. In this case of the federated user, maybe using Shibboleth, maybe using SAML, we go and we get tokens from that. We translate those back. We validate them, turn those back into OAuth, and then send that off to Office 365. So you can see it's a very kind of simple web-based standard. If you were to crack this and look at it in Internet Explorer or in Chrome, it would look effectively the exact same. The only difference is we're getting a little artifact back at the end that lets us talk to each of our servers. We're really excited about this, again, just because it gets Office out of the game of having to learn protocols and gets Office really with direct parity with the web browsers. So that, again, if you can sign in there, you'll be able to sign in with the Office.
So Franklin, what applications are going to start being able to use this new OAuth?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So we're going to launch this with Outlook, we're going to launch this with Link, and we're going to launch this with all of the authoring applications that Office supports. And so these will be things like Word, Excel, PowerPoint.
Okay.
We're also going to find later on, and this won't be part of the initial release, but we also will find support for mobile Outlook on Android, on iPhone. We'll find support for each of those devices as well to basically support these flows and to support this additional form of security on those devices.
Okay. And what is the relationship? This is multi-factor, but does also OAuth, is that what gives us the SSL also, the true single sign-on capability?
It is. It's the interaction between OAuth, between the Active Directory and the partnership that we have at that layer as well.
So even though, if I'm in this room and I'm not turning on multi-factor auth, I'm still taking advantage of this new workflow, because this will essentially be the way that you will be authenticating. Even if you're not using multi-factor auth, you'll still be going through OAuth. And that's what's important about this slide, is that this is the way that you will be authenticating into Office 365. You'll always go through this, and this is what allows us to really have that true single sign-on experience, and to add the MFA to it.
That's exactly right.
And so that's why this is important. As compared to today, we have different varieties. We have basic auth if it's Outlook, or we have this other auth. And so that is what's critical about understanding the OAuth change that is coming down the pipeline.
Yeah, in particular, it's this leg right here. Today, you guys know that we send in the cloud, we take your username and password, send it to the cloud, and then from the cloud, send it back on-prem. You'll notice that in these flows, much like a true federated flow, that the password will now never leave your boundary. Like it is a true federated flow. You'll have the high level of security that you expect with that federation, and even if you don't have multi-factor enabled, your experience is going to get a lot more secure, particularly in the Papa Bear scenario.
Yeah. So the OAuth is giving a single sign-on. It's increasing our security and enable multi-factor auth.
That's exactly right.
So that's a major change. There was a question over here, or did we answer it out? So the question is it possible to opt out of, like, say, single sign-on or things like that? I'm not too sure, Franklin, if you know if people can do that.
It absolutely is, yes. We will support, and the way which we'll enable that is it's less about opting out and more about Office having smart supports for supporting more than one account at any given time. And part of that effort is what's going to happen here. So the default experience may very well be I sign into Outlook and I boot Link, and Link says, oh, look, I remember you, let me go and sign you in. But you can very quickly go change this account, give that second account, and maybe it's using multi-factor, maybe it's not. Maybe it's going even against an on-prem server, and that will work just fine.
Okay.
I saw a question in the back.
Yeah.
Right. So the question was, with the Android devices that we have on campus, will this help with it? And the answer to that is it will eventually, but there's going to be a bit of a delay before and this is just being transparent with you. It won't be there in the initial release. The initial release will include the desktop clients, but we do look at it and have it on the roadmap as we look further out.
Yeah. So all of the Office applications, we are developing and releasing Office applications on Android, on the iOS, and on Mac and things like that. And over time, they will be picking up this model. It's just initially it will be the desktop, the current desktop ones. That's just the timing that as we release it. But absolutely, this is the way that we want to have the authentication, because obviously the better stack. So I see a couple other questions. Do you want to take them now?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Great question. So the question was, what about MFA for PowerShell? And that is on the roadmap. That's something we know we've got to do. And so that will absolutely be there. We're working out the timelines right now.
Yeah, and one other question, and then we'll move on. OneDrive.
Yeah, so is OneDrive included for one of the apps that supports this? And indeed it is, yes.
Absolutely. In fact, and that's critical, especially as we start incorporating some of the attachment features and things like that we have on our roadmap. We really want to see these applications come together, not just on a single device, but across multiple devices. And in order to do that, we knew we had to invest in a underlying authentication structure. And that's really what you're seeing here. Is you're kind of seeing that first step is that we knew we had some infrastructure changes we need to make. This is one of them. Now we have that building block. The rest is just going to start building on top of it. So for me, this is exciting that we're doing this. So, all right, let's move on to the...
Absolutely. So enough talking about it. Let's see some working code, yeah? Now, what we're gonna show here is pretty straightforward. Let's revisit Susie. Susie's enrolled in multi-factor authentication. She's got Outlook, and she now wants to go ahead and set up her account. And so she's going to come in. You guys are all familiar with this one, right? She's going to come in, and she's going to try and just add an account to Outlook. Now, Outlook right now is going to do auto-discover. It's going to be talking to Exchange. It's going to be finding the right Exchange server. And here pretty soon, what you're going to see is Office hosting effectively the same screen that you saw earlier in the web browser. Why is this cool? Well, it's cool because, for one, we can almost do anything in the web, or basically anything in Office now, or anything in the web, now we can do in Office, right? We're just hosting the exact same experience. Here, we can come through and do two-factor authentication, totally agnostic to the client. And so the same thing that you guys saw earlier, you're going to see here in the web browser.
Hold on, let's turn it.
Let's do it.
Which one is it?
And so there you can see the latest code I got.
And hold on, I'll switch back.
I enter it. It's going to verify the code, validate it, sign me in, and it's going to find my settings. It's going to search. It's going to keep looking. It's finally going to go ahead and log me onto the mail server. Again, this is hot off the presses, and so wait for it.
It's coming. It's coming. So. How'd you enjoy the party the other night?
The party was great.
Yeah, all right, that was good.
Rock-a-rokie?
That was good. Yeah. The rock-a-rokie, that was pretty good. So.
I'm sorry.
How long is? I'm sorry, I didn't catch the question. How long is the code before?
Oh, how long? Sorry, the one-time passcode. How long is it good for?
Oh.
I think it expires on the order of minutes. I'm not 100% sure on that. It looks like we're having a little bit of a hiccup with our demo server here, but you can see that we actually were able to log in. We got that second checkbox up there, which is great. We're just having a little trouble getting to Exchange. Yeah, quick question.
That 3D UI at the top of the menu that isn't really part of the normal framework of the Office suite.
Mm-hmm.
With SkyDrive, with OneDrive Pro, you see that a lot, and you have multiple accounts. Sometimes it's confusing which account it's actually asking for, let alone whether it's organization.
That's right.
Or otherwise.
Yep.
Is that something that's going to be addressed? And I mean, it seems like you're continuing to use that UI.
So let's talk about both of those issues. So there's an issue today where SkyDrive Pro has some trouble dealing with multiple accounts, and it gets very pop-up happy. If it hits any hiccup at all, it shows an authentication dialog, and it basically asks you to enter your credentials. Unfortunately, for just kind of due to bad design, bad UX, it doesn't ask which one it is. Exactly. Yep. And so we actually recognize that that's an issue, and that's something we're going to fix even prior to this.
Yeah, you're getting dropped off the wireless.
Oh, bummer.
Yeah, you should have done network. So
Bummer. So that's something that we know we've got to fix, and it's something that we're actually going to fix before we release this. And so when we do release this, we will learn from that, and we will absolutely support that. So, yeah. Really, it's going to be fixed across the entire suite, because even Word, Excel, and PowerPoint, they're less apt to show it because they don't sync as aggressively as SkyDrive Pro does, but it will be fixed in those apps as well.
Hey, congratulations.
Success!
Woo, yes.
And so she comes, she loads her email, and she's able to access her stuff.
Thanks to the show Wi-Fi. Yay.
So with that, are there any questions about what you guys saw there?
So basically you're putting the authentication console to an embedded browser somehow.
Yes.
And in the ADFS scenario, that would be connecting to the ADFS form.
That's one way to do it.
Can you
Yes.
repeat the question, because I'm not too sure I understood.
Just like the one you have in WA, when using federated items,
Yep.
you are authenticated to Windows authentication to your ADFS form.
That's right. So there's a question. The first piece of the question was, this looks like a browser flow. What about the existing mechanisms today that let on-premise SSO work? Things like connecting to ADFS through the Windows integrated authentication endpoint. We didn't show that here, but that is integrated beneath this as well. Like there are basically a handshake that we will do prior to this that will say, can I use Windows integrated and can I just sign the user in?
Yeah,
and if the answer is yes, we will.
Yeah, we didn't demonstrate the true SSO, and that would probably be a good demo. But yeah, we just didn't show that.
The question was
You will, yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
that's exactly what you would do. So you would basically, it would redirect you to the on-premise proxy, and it would show you whatever web page is there. Now, ADFS, the newest version of ADFS 3.0 will actually dynamically out of the box resize the UI and make it look very nice in kind of this mobile view. For your existing infrastructure, you'll likely need to update that to be able to render at that reduced framework.
Yeah.
The UI that we're using here, the dimensions are what a mobile device would be, so that if you get it working on mobile, it works here as well. But it is a good thing to highlight that you will have, there may be some adjustments needed just to the UX to make it render. Right. You can absolutely brand it. You can absolutely show whatever you wanted to there. And that's one of the things that we're most excited about is that not only can you own the branding, but you can own even the security factors on that page. Like you can have, fill in a question that only a member of this company would know. Tell me about something that even only I, as the administrator, would be able to determine. Like you can really, since you own that endpoint, you can almost do whatever you want with that page. You can brand it. You can also add additional form factors like RSA. You can do any kind of third-party provider at that page. As long as it comes back to us speaking this very simple protocol, it'll just work.
And that's all. And that's all through the ADFS 3.0, is that correct?
It's both through the, like that's the easiest way to implement it would be to run ADFS 3.0 and then simply hook that up. ADFS 3.0 has a great infrastructure of pluggable authentication providers, things that help you integrate greatly with Shibboleth, things that help you integrate greatly with other things like RSA. But then, of course, the protocol's simple, and if you wanted to code directly against that, you absolutely would have that option as well.
Great. Just to basically recap everything, what you saw. So it really is based on the new OAuth technology that we're shipping out. That is, we have the infrastructure in place now. Office 365 has the support for OAuth. We have the multi-factor auth, and it will support single sign-on. And any of the web-based applications already have this capability today. So, if you want to start using multi-factor auth with OA and the other web-based applications, by all means do that. And the second message is that Outlook, right now in the code, and we're in the process of putting it out there, will support that along with the other applications. We'll start using this new auth, and that is really the foundation that you'll see over the years as we develop more and more applications on top of this. And that's how we're going to be able to provide a secure and a seamless authentication solution for our customers on Office 365. And so, anyways, I'm actually very happy to be able to show this. I think we're going to close up. We're a little bit early, but I know there's a lot of people who have questions, but some people might want to go. Should we close up and take questions, or, well, tell you what, let's close up. Thank you very much, and then we'll take questions. People can stand up here and hang around for questions. So thank you very much for coming today. Okay. For those of you who have questions, since it's going to be a little bit noisier, if you could come up to the mics then, if that's okay, so as people get, and by all means, please hang around, and then those who want to hear the questions and answers. So.
What about certificates for mobile clients? Will you support that?
Yep.
Certificates for mobile clients is something that's on the Windows Azure multi-factor roadmap. I'm not sure exactly when that's going to come online, though, unfortunately. Yep.
Okay.
Is there an easy way that I could require the two-factor when I'm remote out of the office and not when I'm at my desk?
There is, absolutely. So one of the new features that will be coming online with Windows Azure multi-factor authentication is the ability to do almost location-based multi-factor, where you'll be able to say, as long as you're inside my corporate network, or even within maybe this geographical boundary, do username and password. Otherwise, I need a greater form of security, so text me.
That's great. Is that in the same time frame as the Office?
I believe it's close. I'm not 100% sure, though, and the biggest reason for that is that's coming out of the Windows Azure group.
Okay.
And so, but I do believe that it is roughly the same time frame, yes.
So today the Outlook traffic through Exchange Online is proxied through Exchange Online to the ADFS proxy. The source is always Exchange Online for
right.
those requests. Did I understand that that's going to change that authentication flow?
It is, yes, it absolutely is.
Yeah.
And so
Has or is?
It will.
Okay.
Once this ships, rather than sending the passwords to our cloud and then over to the proxy, the clients will simply access the proxy directly.
So there are some clients that have firewall rules in place
Okay.
for the ADFS proxy. So I guess how are they going to be notified, or are they going to have to make changes there?
Those customers will either have to make changes or they'll have to deploy reg keys that say use the old thing.
Yeah.
That's something that's good for us to know. We will test it, and we may service some appropriate error messaging.
I noted that with my intergrew pin that I picked up down below, so I've got that. So.
Okay. And timing is just second half. That's all we have right now.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, and part of it, and this, let me just talk about the timing for a little bit, because they talked about that a little bit this morning. First off, the way we're actually releasing features right now is that a lot of the code's already there, but it's turned off, and then we enable it for groups so that we can watch it as it goes out. If there's problems, then we can bring it back in. This is actually following the MAPI over HTTP feature that we announced also this morning. This is in addition to that. So we actually have to get the MAPI over HTTP feature out, and then on top of that, we're going to be able to use the OAuth. And so there's kind of a set of features that we're kind of have to build on top of each other. So first, we had to get the support for OAuth on the servers. We had to get the MAPI over HTTP out, and then we're going to be able to turn that on. And so that's why we're not saying, okay, it'll be on this day. We're no longer in an environment where we say, oh, it's this build. It's actually, since it's a client service, it's going to be based on how we roll that service out to people. And we have the ability to control who has it on and who has it off. And then, of course, you'll be able to turn it off if you have specific issues. So anyways, all right, great feedback. MAPI over HTTP, which we announced this morning, will be a prerequisite. That is correct. That is correct. That was, by the way, we call that an extra gem for those of you who stayed around for the questions. You get an extra, that's always why it's good. All right, no other questions? Oh, wait, one other question.
The question was, do we have an anticipated timeline for Link? Link will follow the same timelines as this.
Yeah.
So Link will, when we release for Outlook and Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and SkyDrive Pro, Link will be as part of that as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, question?
Word, Excel, PowerPoint, other Office apps on the desktop, Publisher, crazy, OneNote.
Yes.
Publisher. No, it is in Office Core. I can't comment about Publisher, but OneNote is included in it.
Yeah, OneNote's absolutely
Yeah,
included.
it's Publisher's in a weird state, so I know. Yeah. Are we backporting this Office 2010? Are we considering it? Well, we always consider everything, but I don't know of any plans at this point to put it back to 2000 to 2010. So
That's right.
all right. I have one other question. The question is whether Kerberos is supported on OA on-premise. I actually don't know that, and that might be a question for Exchange.
Yeah, unfortunately,
there's a couple of Exchange. And if you hang around afterwards, I can give you the name to some of the Exchange guys who might know that.
It is?
It is? Okay, great.
There we go.
Okay, so those of you who stayed around for the part 2 of the session's questions, thank you very much for being here, and we'll take that afterwards. All right, thanks.
Thank you.